And we are live. Welcome to this episode of the Bullpen Cart Podcast presented by ThunderblogSports.com. I, of course, am Jordy Cannell, the G-Man, and joining me, fresh on his lunch break at work, is my man, Greg the Prophet Piatelli. How are you, my friend?
Not bad. It's been a couple weeks.
I know.
I'm almost relieved that the Celtics ruined the Boston sweep because, they just team of turmoil needed to shake things up this offseason. So I'm happy, not happy, but I'm happy at the same time. And the Bruins now Eastern Conference Finals, Game 1 on Thursday, which is tonight, and gearing up for that, getting pumped for it. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, man. And then the other thing you got to be happy about yourself with 4 for 4 on round 2 on the Blue Line icing picks. So the Prophet returning to form.
I had to make up for lost time, and I hope the standings are updated, and I'm at the top.
I need to update them. You're probably close, depending on points with games and all that. You might be at the top, but that's another update for another time. But to answer your question, Greg, I'm doing well. It's lunchtime for both of us here, so it's gonna be a quicker episode. We're recording this Thursday afternoon. We run into a little bit of scheduling conflicts as I'm going to the Sixers game tonight, hoping that they can stay alive on the other side of the Eastern Conference bracket. But yeah, I'm pumped to do this. It has been a couple weeks. We got Matty D finally back on the regular season baseball shows. Had Emily on last week, and she did a pretty good job of covering for you. But glad to bring my boy Greggy P back on.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Want to jump right into it?
Let's do it right away. Hot team, obviously.
Oh yeah. Starting the AL.
Tell me why the Red Sox are not the hot team. Let's start there.
Well, they were going to be my pick. So all right. I will
lay it on me.
I'll tell you why they are 8-2 in their last 10, just tearing it up right now. And this is what we thought was going to happen when they started the season a little cold. They figured that they would figure it out, and now they've moved into the top 10 in total runs scored. Looks like they're starting to figure it out a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. Pitching is starting to get a little more consistent. You have a number of games in the last week where they've only let up 1 or 2 runs, a couple here and there where they've let up a few more than that. A 4-1 loss to the Orioles and a 6-4 loss to the White Sox last Thursday. But overall, 2 big series wins, and last Saturday on the road, the 15-2 victory. So Greg, I think your Red Sox are starting to see the ball a little better, and I think if anybody was hitting the panic button on the Red Sox, I think you acted a little prematurely.
Yeah, no, and it's pitching, right? The pitching really has hurt them here in the first part of the year, and everyone, or people, experts like you and I, should have predicted that based on the fact that they gassed their bullpen they gassed their starters off of the World Series, right? They had starters come out relief. They had starters close the game. So in reality, we should have been smarter and seen a little bit of a slower start out of the gates, just based on the fact their pitching staff had so much work on them at the end of the year. Chris Sale last night, unbelievable night. Had a no-hitter through 6, ended up only letting up 1 run, but struck out a crazy astronomical amount. Looking good for him.
Immaculate inning too.
Yeah, I mean, Jordy, if we're
9 pitches, 3 strikeouts for those unaware.
They've only had 15 games at home this year. They've been on the road monsters, road warriors. I'm actually going to a game on Tuesday, so I can give you a stadium snack then. But
hell yeah!
Honorable mention, hot team of the week is Seattle Mariners. The Minnesota Twins, who are taking a little bit of a commanding lead, 4 games up in the Central. I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't mention them. Also, yes. A plus 44, Minnesota Twins plus 44 run differential. So it could be one of those years the Twins either sneak in or are there. They seems to happen every year. They start out hot or they finish hot and they somehow find themselves in the playoffs. So are the Twins the Philadelphia Flyers of baseball?
In terms of either a hot start or a hot finish to sneak in. Um, and
Yeah.
I mean, the Twins, though, you got to give them credit. They're seeing the ball really well. I mean, they're top 10 in both. They're second in batting average, and they're tied with the Red Sox in runs scored. But their pitching's been outstanding. I mean, guys that we thought would do pretty well have been outstanding, like Jose Barrios. Other guys that we weren't too sure coming in, like Jake Odorizzi, he's been pretty outstanding for him. Same with Martin Perez. So yeah, their starting staff's been great. Their bullpen has really picked up for their starters too. A real, back end of by committee, if you will. You have a number of guys with multiple holds, a number of guys with multiple saves. So really figuring out that way. And I mean, they're also just stepping up in big moments. Their WHIP is 8th in the league, but when you have an ERA almost at 4, which is actually 7th best in the league, they're certainly figuring out how to get themselves out of positions that they might be putting themselves into. Not a ton of walks, a lot of hits allowed. Actually, a decently high number of home runs allowed too. So they're really picking up a lot of strikeouts. And like I said, that back end by committee, if you want to call it that, has really been outstanding for the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, no, I like it. The honorable mention, but the high team of the week has to be the Red Sox. Jordy, cold team in the American League. I assume we're going to have the same one, so let's not even waste any time on honorable mentions. Let's just go ahead and talk about the one.
Yeah, you're thinking Seattle Mariners, the team that you almost said was the hot team.
Oh, 100% the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, so
that's why I said it. I had it next on my notes.
Yeah, Greg, so the last time we had you on, I think was 4 weeks ago, the Mariners were sitting prettier than pretty. They were in such a good spot in the American League West, and the Astros figured it out. The Rangers are, starting off the season pretty well. Oakland's still struggling to get their footing. A lot of people thought they'd do well, but the Mariners, they really have gone cold. They lose a 2-game series that they held against the Cubs. Granted, that was over a week ago, technically. But then they hit the road. They lose 2 of 3 in Cleveland. They are currently losing a 4-game series 2-1 to the Yankees. And they won last night, but outside of these games where their offense explodes, their last 2 wins in the last week, they've scored 10 runs. Other than that, their offense can't really get it going. They can't score more than 4 runs. So I think the inconsistencies that we thought the Mariners could show when we did the preseason preview of this team, I think is really starting to come in there. And I think their pitching staff's glaring weakness of starting pitching and not really a sound bullpen is really catching up with them when their offense doesn't show up.
Yeah, and another thing too is they started out so hot because they had a whole extra week or two to gear up for things, right? Because they did the Asian series or Japan series, and they were allowed to start their spring training earlier, just for that fact that they got to, they were traveling, all that stuff. So, and the season started early for them, so they had the advantage of seeing live pitching faster, right? They had the chance for their eyes to get adjusted, all that stuff. I don't know. Yep. I don't know if that's a real thing, but it sounds right and it sounds great when I say it out loud. So,
no. I mean, it's certainly like
something to be said about it.
Well, you see, like, just to use another sport as an example, you saw it with the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders. The Islanders took some time off. They got done with their first round series, a little earlier, and then when they finally had to come back and play, they were a little cold versus a team that got to play more.
Right.
Just keep it rolling, and that's what the Mariners were able to do. And I know they got some time after those 2 games in Japan, but they still get real live action, and not the starter throws 2 innings, then another starter throws 2 innings, and the crap that goes, not crap, but the way that spring training games work and how they all end after 10 innings and all that sort of stuff. This, you got real life experience there, but I mean, it's tough to give a lot of credit when, their best pitcher has an ERA of over 3 in terms of starters. I know you have some relievers that are doing decently well, but I mean, your starting staff, the range of ERAs there, and King Felix has been anything but an ERA over 5. That range is pretty high, and you're not really putting yourself in a great position, when your starting staff's performing that way.
No, I agree, and it's certainly you can get all the big name splashes you want on offense, and they tried it with Cano, they tried it with Nelson, I feel like the Mariners always try to make moves, but they never have all the pieces at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. And so many of those big names started off so hot. Jay Bruce was absolutely killing the ball. Now he's still as double-digit home runs, which good by you, but you're 12 points under the Mendoza line. You're batting 188. In other words, you can't really be doing that when you were a part of a trade for a blockbuster name like Robinson Cano.
Yeah, agreed. Jordy, let's flip it over to the National League.
Yep. I'll let you start.
The hot team?
Yeah, hot team.
I mean, you have to pick the Cubs.
Yeah.
The Cubs, or you could argue the Milwaukee Brewers, who have won 6 straight games.
Yeah. It's one of those two.
So the last week, you could argue the last week, Milwaukee would be the hot team. 6 wins in a row, 8-2 in their last 10.
Mm-hmm.
Jordy only a half game behind the Cubs, aforementioned Cubs. But Milwaukee, I think the biggest surprise for me this year, the reason I think their slow start is their pitching hasn't really been as good as it was last year, correct?
That is absolutely correct, yeah. It's a similar note that we talked about with the Mariners, where their starting staff has been subpar outside of Zach Davies. Your next highest of consistent starters is Brandon Woodruff, whose ERA is above 4. You have some guys in there that have made some starts who, have got a little banged up, maybe, got moved around a little bit. So I think, I think the starting staff being kind of what we thought they were going to be coming into last year, and obviously they were so good, and that's why, especially in the second half, and that's why they were able to overcome the Cubs in Game 163. But this is a team where all their starting staff really has to do is get it to that back end of the bullpen. Guys like Josh Hader, Junior Guerrera is the other guy that's catching me up, and Alex Claudio, who Claudio has been okay. His ERA is 4, but Guerrera is doing pretty solid. In other words, your back end of the bullpen is pretty good, and all you really have to do is put up a number of runs, which they're more than capable of doing, as shown by just the fact that they're nearly at 200 runs. They're actually behind the Cubs now in runs scored, but it's May 9th, and we're talking about teams that are already in the 200s. That includes a team that has Cody Bellinger, who is outstanding right now.
There are only 3 teams. Yeah, exactly. There are only 3 teams ahead of the Brewers in terms of runs scored. So it really comes down to them giving up a lot of runs. They've given up 188. They've scored 190 and given up 188. So
that's tied with. There's only, and on the flip side of that, think of this: the Rockies are tied with them, as are the Washington Nationals. Nationals have a banged up starting staff, and the back end of that staff isn't very good. The Rockies are always going to give up a lot of runs, and the Mets, their starting staff's also a little banged up. So, it says something there.
Yeah, and exactly. And the Brewers, I think, if their pitching staff is really starting to turn things around, which is why they've had such a good week, which is why they've won 6 in a row, and why they're 8-2 in their last 10. We can get to Philly stock later, but Jordy, anything I guess you want to talk about a different hot team of the week?
You mentioned the Cubs, just to talk about them. I think right now they're actually starting their 4th game against the Marlins. They've won the last 2. They're up 2-1 in that series, but mention that 2-game sweep on the road in Seattle. But then they come back and they sweep their arch rival, the St. Louis Cardinals, which is absolutely crucial to win those games, because this division is going to be an absolute dogfight. St. Louis actually tied with the Cubs in terms of wins. They're both behind Milwaukee. Chicago and St. Louis at 21, Milwaukee at 23. It's just losses and more games played that keep the Cubs in first place right now. But they're taking care of business against a team they should, like Miami, but beating their arch rival in St. Louis is crucial. 3-game sweep is always great, but against your rival is even better. Then they face Milwaukee this week. I know, we're jumping a little ahead of looking ahead for this season, for this weekend, but that's going to be absolutely humongous to see how that goes, because the Cubs can keep this rolling. It's not too far-fetched to think that they could possibly take 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee there.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point because they are a team that has always had those superstars and the young core nucleus, right?
Yep.
And especially on the hitting front, and if they can get their pitching staff to follow suit like they did a couple years ago when they won the World Series, then that's a scary recipe for a team that is in a division where they're going to need win a lot of games, because despite being 21-13, they're only that every team except for the Reds are within 3 games of first place. So it's a competitive division, just like you could argue the Red Sox, Yankees, and Rays last year, and that really, you had to win 100 and X amount of games, 110 games or 109 games in order to be in first place in that division. And I feel like the NL Central is going to be in a similar place unless they just beat up on each other for the year. But I'm going to go ahead and say the opposite. They're just going to have to win a whole bunch of games to win it. But
I totally think so, especially where it's looking like the NL West is shaping up to be a division where the Dodgers can just collect a lot of wins. If you want to be in a position where you can try to you want to be a wild card team, whatever, want to get seeding, home field. We've seen how crucial that's been in the last couple of years, especially in the National League playoffs. It's certainly important to just keep collecting the wins where you can. So good on the Cubs. And all those batting averages, we talked about it a couple weeks ago where they were low. They're starting to rise. Water's finding its level there. And I mean, you can't really give too much more praise than you already are with Javi Baez, but he's absolutely murdering the ball. So good on him.
I wouldn't know about home field as the Red Sox swept everyone after the Yankees. So
yeah, it's not. It's from what I remember my last playoff experiences. It's nice. It's nice to have it. Yeah.
I love it. All right, Jordy. Before we switch over to players or anything like that, do you want to get a quick Phillies talk? So for those who don't know, Phillies.
Quick cold talk.
Phillies.
Do you have a cold team?
Cold team?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I skipped it.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
I mean, yeah. Let's go with the Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
The
Solid.
Braves started out well. Really high expectations for this year, just like the Phillies. The issue is the Phillies are trending one way in terms of positive run differential. They're getting their bats like they needed. They're getting the pitching that they needed and wanted. And the Braves just aren't hitting at the same clip or pitching at the same clip as they were last year. So to me, I think if they have any hopes of not only making the playoffs, just to how good the Central and West look, if the Braves don't win or push for the East, then they're not making it back to the playoffs this year, because the Phillies right now just look like a wagon and a team on a mission with the offensive power they have and the pitching power and depth that they have. The Braves, their lucky season or their whatever you want to call it from last year. I think
they're just young. That's really what it is.
I think the luck is sort of running out on them, and I think they need to produce better pitching, better defense around behind their guys, and better defense. The runs are around where they need to be for league average, but if they want to be a top team, they certainly need to pitch a lot better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, their pitching is really the story here, where their starting staff did so well last year to keep that team in, and outside of Max Fried, their starting staff has really struggled. Julio Teheran, ERA 4.6. Kevin Gausman, 5. Mike Fulton-Evans, who's banged up, granted, but nearly a 6. I mean, they are struggling to keep guys in the rotation healthy. Their back end, their bullpen has been real, scary to think about. But it's funny, like they swept the Marlins last weekend, but they just got done in LA and got pretty beat up. I mean, they got a 3-game sweep at Dodger Stadium, but 2 of those games they let up 9 runs. So I mean, you can't really be doing that. It kind of shows the same thing that we saw last year when they faced the Dodgers in the playoffs. They couldn't really get it together. They did win a game. They won 1 game at home, but I mean, you kind of knew that whole first round of the playoffs that they were just completely outclassed. So I don't know. I don't know if this is still something where they just need to kind of continue to figure things out, because the guys who need to hit well are hitting well. They're getting on base. Granted, they're not bringing them around at the clip that I think they'd want to. I mean, they're 12th in the national, or they're 12th in the league. So right in the middle of the road in terms of runs scored, but that pitching staff really needs to tighten things up if they want any shot of catching the Phillies. If the Mets figure it out, the Mets could easily hopscotch them.
Yeah, and listen, we're not telling the Braves to lose weight. We're just telling them to tighten
it up.
We can't legally tell the Braves to
name
that movie.
Shape.
You got it. Name that movie.
Is it Heavyweights? No, it's not Heavyweights.
No, come on.
No, it's not Heavyweights. You tell me. Just tell me, so we can move on.
Knocked Up.
Oh, you're right. Oh my God, you're right. Now I could pick it too. Fucking Kristen Wiig.
Yep.
Just tighten it up. Tighten it up.
And Steve the Pirate.
That's right. That is Steve the Pirate.
Steve the Pirate.
Scurvy. But yeah, let's do some quick Phillies talk since we were going to go in there, but we need to talk about a cold team. Pretty good week for the Phils,
So
took care of business against.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say they took care of business against the Nationals. Really, I mean, we can talk about the Saturday loss, the 10-8 loss a little bit, but then they came back after a nice win on Sunday where they were battling the rain here in Philadelphia right after the Broad Street run. They had a kind of rough loss on Monday night, losing 6-0. The offense looked completely lost. It seemed like this team was going to be a lot of the same of last year. Pretty good at home, and they almost lose themselves on the road. But then they win big on Tuesday. Bryce Harper hit his first grand slam as a Phil. And then yesterday, on the back of an 8-inning dominant performance from Jared Eichhoff, the Phillies win 5-0. A big day for Cesar Hernandez at the plate. The quick note on Saturday's loss, 10-8, the Phillies and the Nationals traded runs pretty much left and right. And what ended up happening for the Phils there was their bullpen had a couple just blips where they let up a 3-run home run to give up the lead. And then another home run there put it at, I believe at that point it made it 9-8 or 9-7. The Phillies tried to battle back, but ultimately fall there. So a couple weird decisions from Gabe the Babe in that game. He's had actually a really good year in my opinion, as the team's manager. But yeah, kind of a weird decision there where Jake Arrieta had a pretty good start going, and Gabe pulled him early enough in that game where he had to go to the bullpen. We talked about it a little bit. Then he brings in Pat Neshek, your favorite, Greg, the sidearm throwing guy. He had himself a pretty nice inning going into the 8th, and he gets pulled for Adam Morgan, who, like I said, let up back-to-back jacks. And that ended up making all the difference, where after such a huge 7th inning where the Phillies put up a 5 spot, they're up 6-3. It looks like they're going to be fine. 6-5. It looks like or 8-5. It looks like things are going to be fine, but then the Nationals scored those 4 runs. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't do math today. But it looked like they were going to be fine, and then they just kept the bleeding going. So the bullpen at times has been spotty, and it looks like they're starting to figure it out. Sir Anthony Dominguez has really seemed to right his ship a little more. Still lets up a run here and there, but I think he's had a better start than he certainly did at the beginning of the year. But yeah, you mentioned it a little bit. The starting staff, that back half outside of Arrieta and Nola, have been pretty great for the most part. You mentioned the Eichhoff start. He's had a number of good starts since he's come back from being injured. Vince Velasquez is the only one that I'm still worried about, because all he likes to throw is his fastball. He shook off JT Realmuto, and that's really what kicked things off on that 6-0 loss on Monday night. Nick Pavetta's still down in the minors, so we're hoping when he comes back, he's going to look good. So it'll be a question of who gets moved to the bullpen whenever Pivetta gets brought back up, because my personal druthers would be to move Velasquez back there, because I think Eichhoff is certainly showing himself as a great starter. And there's, of course, my boy Eflin Mania.
Just had to get everyone's name in there once.
Got to talk about the
So
starting. That's going to be pitching is going to be the key to this Phillies team. Their offense is going to put up runs, like you mentioned. That really top to bottom, they can figure out how to get something going. But the pitching is really what's going to be the main topic of discussion, I think.
So, two questions.
Okay.
First and foremost, the rift. Is there a rift? Harper, Arrieta saying, the comments, this was a couple weeks ago, but saying basically we're not paying the guy $100 million to be suspended or whatever.
Yeah, when he got thrown out against the Mets.
Yeah, to not be in right field or whatever the comment was. Rift, this has happened with Harper in the past. I know he had an issue with a couple pitchers in Washington. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what Jake Arrieta does. He calls it like he sees it. Last year, if you remember, he called out Scott Kingery for a couple fielding errors. I think when he gets frustrated with that kind of stuff, he's gonna sound off. I don't think it's any sort of rift. I think that's just what Arrieta does.
Okay. And second thing is, how is Gabe the Babe handling all the personalities, all the firepower, all the star power?
I think he likes it. I think he really likes what the dugout brings. I mean, these guys all clearly love each other. All the guys that are on the team, they do the wave whenever somebody hits a double. I mean, they're really getting along. They seem to really have a fun time just playing, which is what you need. You saw it last year with the Red Sox, as you made the comment on the opening day video I put up on the Thunderblog Instagram of that the outfield doing the Joel Embiid dunk was copying the Red Sox. But I mean, I think to answer your question, I think Gabe's doing a pretty good job of it. I think aside from a couple managing blips, I think he's had a pretty good season so far, and I think he knows how to kind of reel in his guys. And I don't think you were on the show, hence why you're asking me the question of that Mets game where Harper got thrown out. But we've seen the fire from Gabe this season too, where he comes out defending his guys. So I think he really is enjoying the clubhouse and the atmosphere that's around that team.
Yeah, and Gabe the Babe has always been one of those blue-collar, fiery guys from the jump. So he's going to be that all the time. I just, he's got a big personality. Harper's got a big personality. Arrieta's got a big personality. Real Muto's a star in the league, or will be a star in the league, and one of the better catchers out there when it's all said and done, at least for current game catchers.
Yeah.
And then obviously Sir Anthony being the absolute stud that he is. It's a tough thing to ask, and I think if you're happy with it and Gabe the Babe is doing his thing, I think he's capable of doing it. So, and he was on successful teams with the Red Sox. And he knows what a good manager looks like. So, and a bad manager looks like. So, I'm happy that it's working out. What's the next topic here?
Yeah, let's talk about some hot players of the week. We'll start with the Roy Hobbs MVP of the week. Greg, I realized that when we'd introduced this segment previously, I was not saying the full name, so I'm making sure to introduce it correctly. Well, we'll start American League. Who's your hot player of the week?
American League and not pitcher, right?
Yeah, just batters.
I'm gonna go with. Let's see. I'm gonna go with Michael Brantley. Everyone gives Bregman the credit in Houston. Everyone gives all the other Springer and Bregman credit, but I think Brantley, at least this past week, unreal week. Let's see, he had 9 RBIs, 9 hits, 2 doubles, 4 home runs, 5 runs scored, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, and batted .391 in the last week. So, good on your week for Michael Brantley.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm gonna go with. I'll still go with. I'm gonna go with Whit Merrifield from the Kansas City Royals. Just a guy who I feel like because the Royals haven't had a great year. They didn't have a great year last year. This is a guy who sometimes goes under the radar. But Greg, in the last week, this guy went 9 for 29 with 2 homers, 7 ribbies, 3 triples, and 3 walks, a stolen base, number of strikeouts. But that's okay when you're absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. Again, this is a guy who has been an absolute stud for a Royals team that for rightful reasons doesn't really get a lot of play for how they're doing. But I mean, offensively, they have a few guys that are out there. I don't know if he's somebody that you would think would get moved. I think this is somebody they want to try to build around for any sort of resurgence that we saw from 5 years back. But yeah, that's my guy for this week. But National League, Greg, what do you think about the NL from this past week?
Ooh, man, so tough. I mean, this is a guy that was on the list so many times last year. You and I mentioned him. It seemed like every week, but Max Muncy, for me, batted .450 this past week. 4 strikeouts, 4 walks, stolen base, 11 RBIs, 3 home runs. Yep. Just a great week for him, and on a Dodgers team that looks like they're hungry, looks like they're equally as good, if not better, than what they were last year, and healthy, which is not, with Trey Turner or whichever Turner they have. Justin Turner, thank you. Justin Turner also had a great week, but the Dodgers.
He was going to be mine, so I'm going to pick someone else.
Sorry, the Dodgers are just that much better this year. I have an honorable mention if you want to take mine, but please pick your own guy.
So I'm going to go. I mean, it's tough to not go with Justin Turner because he's four homers, 9 ribbies. I'm going to go. Yeah, I guess I'll go with Ryan Braun on the Milwaukee Brewers. We talked about them as a hot team from this week. He's really picked it up, batting .500, 12 for 24, 6 ribbies, 2 homers. Pretty good week from him there.
Yeah, I mean, batting .500 any week is unreal. So good for him. Good, great. What's next?
Pitchers of the week. The Billy Chappell pitcher of the week. Greg, we'll start in the American League, and we talked about him a little bit, but it's hard not to go with Chris Sale.
Yeah, agreed. Unreal game. Mentioned it earlier, but unreal 2 games. Really, from a guy who all year who I think more than anyone else took him time to gear up into the season. His fastball was a little slower to start the year. His location was a little off to start the year. He just seemed a little, he needed time to recover and needed time to get back into it. So I think he's showing signs that he's getting geared up. He's showing signs he's getting back to what he was and the form that he was in the middle of the year last year. But this weeks like this, with an ERA of .64 for 2 starts and 2 wins only 1 win, but that's his first win of the year. But because the last game that he pitched last night, ended up going to extras, but he only let up 1 run. So it was a great showing, great week for him.
Yes.
So yeah, Chris Sale.
Yeah. Hard not to go with him. Charlie Morton's a nice backup pick. NL, Greg, what do you think there?
Steven Strasburg.
Yes, absolutely.
You're talking about a guy who had 20 strikeouts this past week, which was pretty good. 2 starts. The ERA is a little higher than you like to see, and he picked up a loss, but good, not great. Another guy, Jordy, do you have your own guy for the National League?
Yeah, I was going to go with Robbie Ray. 2 starts, only 11.1 innings thrown, but 18 strikeouts. This is a guy on Arizona who we expected big things from, and kind of like a lot of other big name starters, had kind of a rough start to the year. Only let up 1 earned run. Granted, he had 5 unearned runs, so kind of tells you a little bit of the story of the Arizona Diamondbacks this year. But yeah, he's certainly been dominant there, and what the Diamondbacks want from him and from that team.
Yeah, I like it. Good call. Yeah. That was it. I have a reliever, Jordy, of the week, because
there we go.
You gave them 0 love.
Oh, sir.
Josh Hader, you mentioned him earlier.
Yes.
3 games, 3.2 innings, 1 hit, 10 strikeouts in 3 innings. 10 strikeouts in 3 innings. Now imagine that. Some guys go a whole entire start and don't even get 10 strikeouts, including the guy who just threw a no-hitter, but which is crazy now that one of us is mentioning him. But 10 strikeouts in 3 innings, 3 saves, 3 for 3, including a 5-out save. So Josh Hader, for me, reliever of the week.
Oh no, that's a good pick. That's a really good pick there. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go with a guy from your team, Greg, Brandon Workman of the Boston Red Sox. Number of innings of work, couple holds. He pulled out a win there as well. So good on ya for this guy. You mentioned Mike Fiers' no hitter. I'm glad you did. He obviously threw the first one of the year. A lot of great defensive plays, including an absolute snag of a home run rob that I think it only got outdone by JBJ. Was that last night or was that 2 nights ago?
Last night, yeah.
Yeah. Probably one of the better plays of the year. If you haven't seen this, go look it up. Another play I just wanted to talk about quick. I don't know if you saw this, Greg, on Kentucky Derby Day, a minor league team in, I want to say it's Myrtle Beach, MB, but they wore Kentucky Derby jerseys, and their one pitcher had a comebacker that he tried to field, bobbled it a little bit, and as the runner's about to get to first, as he's bobbling it and drops it, ends up kicking it to the first baseman. Maybe one of the most ridiculous plays I have ever seen. And the highlight of it that minor league baseball shared was just Yogo Bonito, a beautiful game. Absolutely crazy moment there. So, Greg, do you have a stadium snack for us this week?
Well, no, but I am going to the Red Sox on Tuesday, so I'll have one.
So we'll get a scouting report
next week.
Nice.
I will mention, however, I did have my first Dell's lemonade of the season, which is at Fenway Park, and first shameless plug of the year. And I'll be getting another one on Tuesday, but it's
Pauly P man in the booth.
Pauly P Senior, but unbelievable, great stuff. Great. We had the watermelon. I had the watermelon flavor this time around.
I actually saw a little poll of theirs they had on social media saying what flavor are you looking for at Fenway.
Yeah. I mean, it's great stuff. It's perfect for a hot day, perfect for one of those days, and that it was one of those days this past weekend, and it was great mixed with a little vodka for the Kentucky Derby. So
there you go. There you go, Greg. That's actually pretty awesome. Do you have any Bleacher Creature stories? I went to 2 games last week. I had I think I've talked about the turkey sandwich from the Bulls Barbecue and just the general spread of Bulls Barbecue, but absolutely great. Smoked, sliced turkey, absolutely stunning. A great barbecue sauce selection as well. And Greg, you know how I feel about barbecue sauce, so I was happy as a clam eating that sandwich last Wednesday against the Detroit Tigers. Checked off every single American League Central team. Fun fact.
And that's awesome.
Yeah,
I've now seen. That's sweet. Did you
get to?
Did you eat any? Did you eat any food when you were at the Sixers?
Last Thursday. No, I didn't. I ate at home. They jack up the prices for the playoffs. It's a little sad.
Imagine that.
Yeah,
Imagine that, the inhumanity of it.
Yeah, the humanity. Yeah. Oh man, price of a beer going up a couple percentage points. Any Bleacher Creatures that you got, Greg? Because I have a couple that are actually kind of funny.
Yes, this actually not from the world of baseball, but from the world of hockey. I thought was the hilarious thing. So St. Louis Blues were playing the Dallas Stars.
Oh yeah.
And the first game in Dallas, behind the bench, there was this woman who had a very low cut shirt and rather large brassiere, and you could sort of paint the picture for yourself there.
Yeah.
So the St. Louis, when the next game was in St. Louis, there was a fan who sat behind the bench, and you can again see the fans through the glass behind the bench. And when they cut to the coach, it was a male this time. A male was wearing a shirt or created his own shirt that looked exactly the same as the Dallas woman had painted on, or painted the shirt to look skin color and match the shirt with a low cut. Blah blah blah. So it's just, and then painted.
Yeah, it was hysterical.
It was. If you haven't seen the picture, Jordy, I'm sure we'll link it up or do something so you guys can see it. But it's all.
There's a good 2-picture Instagram of almost a before and after, but just the two combinations. So I'll probably try to find that, maybe put it on the show notes.
It was hilarious and it's really funny. So great, good on St. Louis. I'm glad that they're moving on, and I went four for four. So Jordy, what's your bleacher creature?
Yeah, so mine is a woman by the name of Jordan who was trying to offer some services to a one Philadelphia Phillies right fielder Bryce Harper. She sent a direct message of her posing with clothes on. There's no nudity, but still showing off the goods, saying, "Hey, handsome, I'm Jordan. I'm just trying to be your stress reliever." The only problem with it, Greg, is that she sent it to not Bryce Harper, whose Instagram is Bryce Harper 3. Sent it to his wife, Kayla Harper's, whose Instagram is not Bryce Harper's wife. Has nothing to no word of Bryce in there. It's Kay Harper. How this woman Jordan screwed it up, I don't know. But Bryce Harper's wife Kayla made it just really took it with a nice laugh of somebody trying to slide into her husband's DMs and accidentally sliding into hers. Just resharing it and saying, "Hey, if you're gonna go after a married man on social media, you better make sure it's not his wife's." And then she actually tags Bryce Harper saying, @BryceHarper3, "Are you feeling stressed out at all? I think I have a solution for you." So,
that's hilarious. That's a funny move.
Yeah. So really nice move by Kayla Harper.
That's really funny. And what number is Bryce Harper wearing?
Bryce Harper's wearing 3 for the Phillies.
What was he wearing in
34,
Washington?
Which was previously Roy Halladay's number, and he had mentioned that in his
so he just dropped
press conference.
So I should have just started getting B Harper at every single number, and then he would have to pay me for it. But anyway,
try to pull a taco from the league where he has DallasCowboys.com.
Nice. I love it. Jordy, that was a good one. That was funny. I actually did see that. And you're right. She did play it off pretty well, and it's a good laugh by all. So
yeah. I had another one that is just actually a little sad, but maybe the saddest headline of a video I've ever seen of White Sox fans brawling in an empty stadium is beyond depressing, which you can paint that picture yourself. The only other thing I did want to mention was Joey Gallo. Got to give him some props. 100 homers, has not gotten 100 singles yet in his career. One of those crazy stats that you only see.
Chris Davis territory.
Yeah, I don't know if the good people of Dallas are giving out free shots yet, but who knows?
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the Cowboys fans, they're all good people except for them. But anything else, Greg, before we wrap things up?
Be on the lookout for Jordy's round, conference round.
Yes, I do
need for the NHL.
Yeah,
send the text so you can get our picks from Jared Barnes and myself.
I said to see Jared's write up of his picks because the last time those were interesting.
Yeah, and he went what 0 for 2.
He went I think he and I both went 3-3 or 3-4 or 3-1, 3 for 4.
Oh, so I definitely didn't make up any ground then if you guys both went.
Yeah, he picked Columbus to beat the Bruins, and I picked Colorado to beat San Jose.
Nice. Good for me then.
Then you were 4 for 4, and we had the other 2 series right. In terms of games, though, that's where things get tricky because I don't think none of us had Carolina sweeping. I think Jared might have been the closest on that. I think he might have had him in 5. The Brooklyn Islanders, as I think they're now going to be called when they play at the Barclays Center. Really, nice. They want to. I did not create that name, but I think they want to terminate that deal as soon as they possibly can with the fucking Honda in the corner.
Well, they're building a.
They're building a new one. I don't know when it's getting done.
Right. Anyway, let's stick to baseball.
Yeah.
Go Sox, and they finishing off in Baltimore, and then back to Fenway next week. So.
Yeah, Phil's face the Royals this weekend and then come home to host the Brewers. So it's going to be very interesting.
The Royals and then who?
The Brewers, the Brew Crew. Monday is Game of Thrones night at Citizens Bank Park, Greg.
Especially after the episode on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
What a wild episode.
Yeah. Couple wild episodes that we've had in the last few weeks, Greg.
Yeah, we should start a Game of Thrones podcast like everyone else in the world.
Yeah, we should. We could do our hastily made hot takes, throne takes.
Yeah,
right.
then yeah, let's get out of here.
Yeah, all right. That's going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcoin, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, ThunderBLG. Jordo9 for me, Gerg SP for Greg. I think GTP Ateli on Twitter for him. Thunderbug Sports on Instagram for us, and just like the website, thunderbugsports.com. As Greg mentioned, I'm going to try to get out a quick vlog at the end of the day. I have to quickly edit this while I have work for the rest of the day as well, so we'll figure all of that out. I'm a little over on my lunch, so I got to get back, Greg. Thank you, though, as always.
Work schmirk.
Yeah, what happens. It's a final project, though, for school that's effectively like working.
Got to pay. All right, hey, George. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, man. A ton of fun to have you on. We'll have a bigger show next week. We'll figure out if we can try to do a hockey pod as well, maybe a combined show. But for my man, Greg Piatelli, I am the G-Man. Have a great weekend, everybody, and go Phils!